Thank you very much. I'm Eloy Gomez, Communication Officer of the Joint Secretariat. I will explain you briefly the communication part that you should take into account in your application forms. Basically, to start, and even if I repeated myself, if you already participated in the first call or if you have already some experience with previous programming periods, I would like to highlight and stress again the importance of communication in your projects, but even more in this programming period where you can already see in the application form how the communication of your project is linked to all project objectives and all project activities. So let's say it's like a transversal part of your application forms, and it should be taken seriously because of that. It's of course aiming to reach the project goal and to disseminate your achievements, but it must be linked to all work packages and all activities in the project and objectives. So that's why you need to plan in advance good planning of the activities plus enough resources, monetary and staff resources for these communication activities. In the application form, normally it's in the work package 2, you will see something like this part that you can see on the screens, where you have to put the start, the end, and budget of all the communication, of all the work package. And for that, again, please have in mind to allocate enough number of resources. And the involvement of the partners is very important. You need to specify for each activity which partners will be involved. And a communication manager should be appointed, not at that stage of the application form, but it will be later appointed. So you can already have in mind which partner can be the leader in this time of communication activities as communication manager. For the project-specific objectives, you need to specify for each of them which communications activities are linked and how communication will help to reach each of these objectives and how you will reach each of the target groups. For the activities and deliverables, again, you have to put the title, the start, end, and budget of each of them, and the role of each partner. So that's why, again, it's very important in writing the application form, the involvement from the beginning of all the partners in writing the whole proposal, but namely on this part of Work Package 2 for communication activities. And for each activity deliverable, you have to establish a target value and when it will be achieve or deliver, depending on if it's a material, if it's activity. And I would like to highlight that it's not only linked to communication, but also from the content part. You will see in the application form another part that is related to capitalization of your project. It has been mentioned in the previous session. So for this, you can both take into account previous experiences from previous projects, not only from the Danube Transnational Program. So you can check, for instance, as I was mentioned before, the approved projects of the first calls in our website, and you can already take on board some of the activities to capitalize on during your project implementation. But you can also search other types of projects approved under different EU funds, and you can would like to capitalize on these projects. But in this part of the application form related to capitalization, please also think on how you will capitalize your project achievements results during the project implementation. It's not only about the past capitalization, but also during your project implementation. You may be interested to capitalize some of the results with some other related topic projects, not only in the Danube Transnational Program, but namely in our program. And it was mentioned before, with the 54 projects approved in the first call, we have started a capitalization strategy. So we have grouped the approved projects in poles related to specific topics, and they will start to capitalize between them during their implementation phase, doing different communication activities, for instance, join newsletter, join activities, join events, but not only. Sometimes they come together to improve their achievement, their outputs, and even to foster the dissemination of these outputs. So all this you can take into account, this past and present or whenever the project is approved, capitalization of your achievements. In terms of responsibilities, I mentioned before that all partners should be on board on this part of the communication activities of the project. And the rules need to be followed by all of them. Of course, this is basically once the project is approved, you need to check carefully this, but just for you to know that every time you have to acknowledge the EU funding in all the activities and products that you will produce, otherwise the cost will not be eligible. And the communication manager of the project that you can even already think of when writing your application form will be in charge of implementing the communication plan, coordinating the activities on communication for all the partnerships, involving them in these activities, and contacting the Secretariat for all your communication activities. And related to communication, it's very important to take into account the internal communication. This is also something that you can reflect in your applications, how you will communicate between you. Because the successfulness of a project is not only good content part, but also good partnership cooperation. And if you have 15, 16 partners, it's not easy to streamline this process. And for that, you have to have in mind how you will communicate and which methods and tools you will use. And this can be also reflected in your application form. Also to engage all the partners as possible, because in some of the projects fails also in this sense, that some partners work a lot and make lots of things, some others are leave aside, and their involvement is very little. So this should be avoided. And also the communication with us. You should participate in our trainings, in our events that we organize at program level, but also maybe you may think of capitalization events that you can already reflect on your application forms. And you have to inform us about the activities that you are implementing. Why I'm saying now this? Because, of course, in the budget part and also in the work package too, you have to think about these events or activities that you will put in place during the implementation of the project, and also, of course, there will be some flexibility, but you already have to take into account all these activities beforehand. And one of these activities that you are supposed to do once the project is approved is you need to write a communication plan. You don't need to do it now, but it's very good to start thinking about this now in this preliminary phase, because like this you will have a better approach of all communication activities. So there will be like a plan developed by the communication manager with the help of all partners, and there you will include all your communication activities. These are the sections that we will require to you once you are approved, and you have to submit it with the first progress report. But if you can already have in mind these main points of this communication plan, it will help you a lot to develop this work package too in the application form in a successful way. And in terms of budget and money and minimum activities that you have to include now in the application form related to communication, the production of a poster, even if it will not be a huge quantity of money to be allocated for this, is something that according to regulations you have to produce, and every partner has to display a poster during the whole project implementation. We will provide you with templates, and you can design yourself, but you may decide to follow our templates, and you just need to print it, to produce it. It's a small cost, but you should include it now in the application form. And another thing that is the minimum, another minimum activity that you should include is the organization of at least 2 public events. One will be the kickoff event once the project is approved within the first 4 months of the implementation phase. You have to organize a kickoff event. It doesn't mean the partnership meeting where you meet for the first time with your partners. No, this is a public event addressed to stakeholders and your target groups, a wider audience, to make them aware that the project has been approved, that you will reach some goals at the end, and to already have the first contact with your target groups and stakeholders. So this you need to budget as well. And at the end of the implementation phase, you need to organize this final dissemination event to disseminate what you have achieved, your achievements, deliverable outputs, and to make them as disseminated as possible. So these are the 2 minimum public events that you should organize, but of course, depending on your activities and your requirements, you may decide to organize more. but you can also budget the participation of each partners in, for instance, program level events and other types of events that you need to participate, and of course there is a cost for that. One thing for those who were familiar, for instance, with the Southeast Europe program or previous programming period programs, by that time, you were supposed to produce a logo, like a brand for your project, but now this is forbidden. In this programming period, you cannot produce a logo for your project. We will provide you with a logo. It's basically very similar to the program logo, just we will add for you the project acronym in the color code of the different priorities, and we will produce it for you, meaning that you don't have to put any type of cost in the application form now for the production of a project logo, because it's not eligible. Only in very, very specific and well-justified cases, you may ask the permission to produce a logo when you have creating a brand and long-term brand existing after the project closure. In those cases, yes, but otherwise, you are not supposed to create your own project logo. And the same with the project website. You cannot create your project website this time and this programming period. We are not the only program following this rule. Other programs also follow this approach. We will provide you a place in our program website for your project website or web page. We will give you the access with a password, username. There will be there is already a manual for the approved project that you can even check in our website. So you don't need to allocate money or resources in the design or creation of the website. You do have to think of resources in the updating and monitoring the website. Some partners must be in charge of having alive and live this project website, but you don't need to create it. In fact, it's not eligible to create it. Again, only very well-justified cases when the project or the website that you would like to create, it's an output of the project. It's like it's not a communication tool anymore, but it's a result that an output you will achieve. In those cases, we allow you to create it, but it must be well-justified. Again, for instance, I have in mind that, for instance, a training platform, that is an output that the project itself would like to create. This is different. But the project web page as a communication tool, you cannot produce by yourself. You just need to follow the website that we will allow you to create within the program website. This has been a decision of many programs, and we believe on the advantages of this approach for better monitoring of your work, but also to focus and to make available for everyone easily all the work that you are doing. So someone is visiting our program, they can easily reach your project website. While before there were too many brands, too many logos, too many websites, and sometimes some people, general public, but not only, other target groups were confused about this. So we are harmonizing and streamlining this process because of that. And talking about the website, some of you already asked me about the presentations that we are presenting you today, so they will be available in our website tomorrow. And apart from that, I would like to highlight some section of our website that it will be very useful for you now that you are starting preparing your application forms, is the partner search area. Please use it because it may be very useful for you, both to find appropriate partners that you may still looking for, or to promote your idea and ask for partners to join in your idea and your proposal. You have a section partner search where you can put your idea or look for partners. And there you can even have the contact details of our national contact points where in case you can approach, you would like to approach them in the sense of looking for specific partners in one country. They also can help you in this sense.